Hola, ¿cómo estás? Tudo bem? Hello, aloha, konnichiwa. What it do? Welcome to the J-Boy Sports Podcast. We're going to dive back into the Mike Malone issue here. So, Mike Malone was fired, and I did a video, a part one of this, and we discussed some things within that video. And within that video, a lot of what we were talking about was specifically that obviously Mike Malone was fired. We don't really know 100% what happened. We looked at the fact that they're trying to say that they're trying to help the team and they think they're going to give the team a boost in this instance. And it just has gotten out of control, just quite nasty. But I wanted to clarify a few things, and we also have some more information. So yesterday, when I was doing my due diligence and combing through the internet, what I found is that I had mentioned before that I guess Mike Malone and Calvin Booth were cool, and that's why they, must have went out together. But apparently, it's the exact opposite. So, hey, I never feel ashamed to come back and admit when I'm wrong. I don't have a problem coming back to change information as I get new information. None of us should be unwilling to do that. But essentially, it turns out that Mike Malone and Calvin Booth, who was the GM, they are not friends. They are not friends at all. And everyone is saying actually that they despise each other, which is crazy. And so essentially what they're saying is management up top, the Kroenke family, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, we're just like, you know what? You two can't get along. Forget it. You're both out of here. You're both done. And with that being done, they're basically saying that these two did not have a working relationship. They're also saying that Mike Malone might have lost some of the locker room. Specifically, though, that Joker, he was hard on everybody, but he was less hard, supposedly, on Joker and Murray and much harder on everyone else. And so this opens up a whole lot of things going on here because it just becomes a really interesting situation with a lot of things going on. So, because there are reports that are saying that Joker actually really liked Malone. And I'm guessing that Murray also really liked Malone. But it looks like the rest of the team may have felt like, oh, well, that's cool and all, but you're treating them a little better than you're treating the rest of us, which is, I mean, I've never been in an NBA locker room, but from what everybody says, when you have great players, the great players are going to get a little bit extra treatment. I mean, that's just what it is. That's just how it goes. So, but it must have been to an egregious level, I guess, if he lost the locker room. I don't really know. I do know this. Joker is an excellent player. One of the best players I've ever seen. Hands down. Just crazy talented. All this without really elite athleticism is extremely impressive. Definitely one of the most skilled players I've ever seen. In the top 5, he's got to be. But he doesn't really play great defense. So imagine if you're Mike Malone and you're trying to get the rest of your team to play defense, but your number one leader is not really a defender. I can see how that could be a problem. I can't lie. I can see how that could be a problem. But also on top of that, you have a situation where now Murray has been out. He's been hurt. You're losing 4 games here in a row, which is, I think, where they were last at. And, that becomes an issue. And Murray, I believe they had asked Malone when Murray was coming back, and he said, at one point he was day-to-day, and now they changed it to he's just out. And that's how Malone responded. Malone doesn't sugarcoat things. So, it's really just a very interesting situation how this is unfolding. Apparently, Malone and the GM, Calvin Booth, did not get along at all. Management said, you're both done. You're both out of here. We're tired of this quote-unquote toxic environment. They're also starting to say, like, oh, there was a beef between them as far as their opinions on Russell Westbrook. I don't know how true this is or is not. Russ has had some difficult moments at times this year, but it's really been few and far between. The Russ haters are going to hate Russ no matter what. But the truth of the matter is Russ does bring something to your team. And I've seen games where he absolutely put them over the top, where he's done a great job. And truth be told, he's been more reliable than Murray has this season. Murray is in and out of the lineup, and I'm a big Jamal Murray fan, but hey, Murray, the best ability is availability. So he's got to play. And I don't know. And then they came out with a report saying like, oh, we think this will catapult us into the postseason. What? Where has that ever happened? When has that ever happened? What? You get rid of the coach, you get rid of the GM, and now that's going to catapult you forward into some wins? Is this Dragon Ball Z? Do Saiyans, are they Super Saiyans? Do they get better the stronger the opponent and the longer they last without dying? Do they just keep getting stronger? Is there a Super Saiyan 7 around the corner for these guys? Like what? So I'm thoroughly confused with that line of reasoning. We will see what happens, but it just looks like this is a lot of things that have just gone completely south. And like I said, they didn't get along apparently, so I was wrong about that. Apologies. But this is why it's still good to listen to my channel, because I will freely come back and admit when I have made a mistake. And I did make a mistake on that call, that assumption. But here's the thing, guys. I encourage you to make assumptions about things too. Maybe you have to be careful how you say them and who you share them with. But you should always be trying to think ahead of why somebody is doing something as far as like the Nuggets organization. You should always try to think, further ahead to see why they're doing that or how they're doing that. And then you can always come back and adjust things when you think that they need to be adjusted. And in this case, I was on the opposite side of the spectrum here. That it wasn't that they were cool and they went together. It was because they hated each other, and the top management was just like, you know what, too toxic. We're done with all of it. So I just wanted to come back in and clarify some of the thoughts on this Mike Malone situation. I think the Nuggets are definitely in a lot of trouble. Maybe we'll be somehow surprised, shockingly, but I think the Nuggets are in a whole heap of trouble. A whole heap of trouble. I don't know how this is going to work out. I think that Joker is it's unfortunate, but Joker's in a really, really tough spot. He's a great player, and things around him just don't seem to be consistent. And I really think the Nuggets made a mistake getting rid of Mike Malone. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know the day-to-days, but Calvin Booth, who cares? He's not that special. But I also, and actually one more thing I wanted to point out. When the Nuggets won the championship, they still had Caldwell Pope. They still had Brown. Forgot what his first name is now. I'm forgetting his last name. He was about 6'4" guard that was on the Nets previously. And the dude can play 1 through 5, and he's like 6'4". And I don't remember what his first name is. Last name is Brown. They have a Brown on there now, but that's the wrong Brown, and it's spelled Braun, so I don't know why it's Brown. But that's not the guy I'm talking about. That's Christian Brown. I'm not talking about him. They had a Brown when they won the championship, who played a big pivotal part off the bench. They also had Green, Jeff Green, and he played a big part off the bench. And now those two were gone. But I remember Mike Malone saying at the parade, Brown ain't going nowhere. And I was so shocked when Brown was gone. And then Green was gone. And then likewise in this offseason, Caldwell Pope is now gone. And I'm just confused. I'm just confused because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They didn't even get a chance to fight for the second peat of their chip. You look at the Celtics that just won last year. What changed? Nothing. Not really. Players got better, but that's what you want. You keep those core guys, and they get better. The Nuggets just let go of all that energy they had with Brown and Green coming off the bench. And then they let go of Caldwell Pope this offseason. So I don't know. To me, if I'm Mike Malone, I have a case for why I hate Calvin Booth now that I think about it. This guy is, I do think he's a trash GM. And if you listen to Scap Attack just did a video that I listened to. And Scap is really gung-ho on Joker. And I get it. He's a little intense on Joker, in my opinion. I'm a Joker fan personally as well, but I'm not as intense as he is about it. I think he is quite intense, and I'll leave it at that, which is fine. Still listen to a lot of his videos. Scap Attack is great. one of my favorite people, one of the people I listened to help me decide that I wanted to take on my own channel. But at the end of the day, Scap has some beef here and is correct in that what has Calvin Booth been doing? I don't even blame Mike Malone for this. Mike Malone said, if you watch that parade, Brown is going to be here. He's not going anywhere. Then Brown's gone. And I thought to myself, like, man, Mike Malone is usually a man of his word. And I kind of brushed that off, but I remember that. And it's probably because Booth didn't listen and tried to go against Mike Malone. Mike's just doing the best he can with what he has. So I'm on Mike's team. I'm still really sad to see him go. I thought he was an excellent coach. I think he's an excellent coach. And I also feel bad for Joker getting rid of all the pieces that help you win. And Calvin Booth has been inept at his job. I do agree with Scap on that 100%. So this is why it's good to remember things as they happen. Sometimes you don't have to say anything about certain things. Just make a note, a mental note in your head to remember this. And I remembered when Mike Malone said that and wondered why it was so backwards that Brown was gone, literally like a couple weeks after he said that, or months, or it was shortly after. So just some things to keep in mind. This story is going to continue to unfold. It is interesting because why does something like this happen? It's unprecedented, right? So even though you're seeing it more and more in the NBA nowadays, and they're letting go of these coaches that are winning rings because of one or two things is not going right, but really it's the GM and management that are making a lot of these moves that are changing the team. The Lakers let go of Frank Vogel. They changed the team after they won the bubble chip. You know, the Bucks let go of Budenholzer. Dang, I'm messing up his name. And then they had Adrian Griffin, and they let him go, and they were better with Adrian Griffin and Budenholzer. And Doc Rivers has been mediocre at best. So what are these teams doing? What's happening here? You're not. I don't get it. I don't get it. So I guess players are complaining, and it's a player-run league. But this is why, if it's because of the players, in my personal opinion, everybody has a job to do. If you're the GM and the owner, you need to consistently evaluate the coach. Now, you can talk to the players, but also the proof is in the pudding. And if the players are sounding like, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them are sounding like just want to be babies that need to be coddled, then, you know, if the coach is good, the coach is good. If the coach is bad, the coach is bad. If the coach is good, then it is what it is. You don't always, you know, who's next? You, the general manager is getting fired because of the players. Or the owner, will the owner be fired because of the players complaining? So why are you so quick to fire the GM and the coach? And in the case of this GM, I'm fine if you let Calvin go. He did not do his job, in my opinion. But Mike Malone is a good coach. Who's replacing him? So I don't know. That's how. Those are my thoughts. I'll continue to talk about this situation because I think it's deeper than rap. This is one of those Kendrick versus Drake joints in the making. Why is this happening? Not just because of Mike Malone, Frank Vogel, Mike Budenholzer. Why is this happening? We're getting rid of these championship coaches, and then they're not the people. You know, the people filling in behind them are not doing better. That I see. The Bucks have struggled all year. You did all this work to get rid of Budenholzer. You did all this work to get rid of Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday goes over to Celtics, wins the championship. If it ain't broke, why are we fixing it? And in the case of the Bucks, it was just injuries that have kind of slowed them down. But I don't know. Those are my overall thoughts. We put it together how you want, guys. Thank you very much for listening to the J-Boy Sports Podcast. Truly appreciate you. I'm very humble. Like, share, and subscribe. And hold on after the video because there's going to be some suggested videos that I know you'll love. Much love. That somehow you never get over leaving me. And when you feel like coming